if someone intercepts user credentials. Some examples include validating inputs, where it ensures that the data conforms to the expected formats to prevent attacks like SQL injection or cross-site scripting, XSS. Another example would be avoiding hard coding. Sensitive information such as API keys or passwords should never be embedded directly into the code. Use secure storage solutions instead. Another is proper error handling. It's making sure that error messages don't expose any sensitive system information. It reduces For instance, a healthcare application using SBD might safeguard patients' records more effectively, even in the event of a cyber attack. Another benefit of SBD is enhanced user trust. Security isn't just about defense, it's about reputation. When users trust your system, they are more likely to engage with your service. This trust builds loyalty, especially in industries like finance and healthcare, where data security is paramount. Now let's go to the key tools and techniques for security by design. First is static application security testing, or SAST. SAST tools analyze source code during development to identify vulnerabilities. Think of it as proofreading your code for security flaws. Examples include checkmarks and SonarQube. Another tool that you can use is the Dynamic Application Security Testing, or DAST. DAST tools simulate attacks on a running application to uncover weaknesses. Tools like OWASP, ZAP, and Burp Suite are widely used for this purpose. Another tool that you can use is security automation, or another technique is security automation. Automation is a game changer in security. Tasks like vulnerability scans, patch deployments, and encryption key rotations can be automated, reducing human error and speeding up the process. Last is security testing frameworks. Security testing frameworks like the OWASP ASVS, or Application Security Verification Standard, provides a structured approach to security testing, ensuring no stone is left unturned.
Okay, that's SBD. Any questions or clarifications before we move on to web application firewalls, or WAFs? None.
Next, we'll explore an essential tool in the arsenal of web application security: web application firewalls, or WAFs. If we think of a web application as a castle, then the WAF acts as a castle's gatekeeper, filtering and monitoring all incoming and outgoing traffic to ensure only safe and legitimate interactions occur. The primary goal of a web application firewall is to protect web applications by analyzing and filtering HTTP requests. Unlike traditional firewalls, which focus on network level protection, WAFs are specifically designed to guard against application layer attacks. Some common scenarios where WAFs are invaluable include 1. Preventing SQL injection attempts where an attacker tries to manipulate a database through malicious queries. Or blocking cross-site scripting attempts which inject malicious scripts into web pages. And another is detecting and mitigating distributed denial of service or DDoS that attempt to overwhelm your application. What are the key features of a web application firewall? WAFs excel at identifying malicious patterns in HTTP requests. These detects and blocks malicious requests. For instance, if an attacker tries to insert SQL commands in a login field, the WAF detects this unusual behavior and blocks the request before even it reaches the server. Some WAFs even come preloaded with rules that address the OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities, providing a strong baseline of protection. Next is real-time threat intelligence and anomaly detection. Modern WAFs leverage real-time threat intelligence to stay ahead of emerging threats. They constantly update their rules based on the latest attack patterns observed globally. Additionally, WAFs use anomaly detection to identify unusual traffic behaviors, such as abnormally high number of requests from a single IP address, which could indicate a bot attack. Another feature of WAF is customization for application-specific needs. Every application has unique security requirements. WAFs allow administrators to create custom rules tailored to specific application behavior. For instance, if your application processes a unique type of data input, you can configure the WAF to monitor that input more closely. Okay, so what are your options for deployment for WAFs? You can deploy WAF through the cloud-based infra. Cloud-based WAFs are offered by providers like AWS, Azure, and Cloudflare. These solutions are 1. It's easy to deploy. It often requires minimal configuration to start. Second, it's scalable. They can handle sudden surges in traffic, making them ideal for applications with fluctuating demand. And then it's globally distributed. Many cloud-based WAFs operate across content delivery networks or CDNs, ensuring low latency protection for users worldwide. The other option of deploying WAF is on-premise. On-premise WAFs are installed directly within an organization's network infra. These are better suited for business that 1. Require tighter internal control over data and configurations, and it operates in highly regulated industries where sensitive data cannot leave the organization's premises. Think of financial institutions. While on premises, WAFs offer greater control. They require more maintenance and upfront investment compared to cloud-based solutions.
Okay, that's on web application firewalls. Do note that deployment of WAFs would depend on your requirements. In most cases, deploying it on the cloud, well, at least in the industry that I'm in, we're mostly hosting our services, our platform through cloud in AWS. Our general deployment for WAF is on cloud. Specifically, ours is on Cloudflare. Now, depending on the organization or the business or your employer, there would be requirements by which you are to deploy WAF depending on, let's say, one, if you're in financial, let's say if you're in the banks, and then if they would opt for the WAF to be deployed in premise, then unfortunately you'll have to deploy it in premise. Otherwise, I would suggest go for the cloud approach first. Okay, questions or clarifications before we move on to secure API design?
Next, we move on to secure API design. APIs, or application programming interfaces, are the backbone of modern web applications. From connecting services to enabling integrations, APIs play a critical role in how applications interact with each other and with users. But with great functionality comes great responsibility. APIs can become significant attack vectors if not designed with security in mind. Now we'll explore the importance of secure API design and discuss some of the best practices to safeguard your APIs. Let's begin with why securing APIs is crucial. APIs serve as a gateway between clients and servers, facilitating access to sensitive data, services, and functionality. Because of these, APIs are high-value targets. If an API is compromised, it can expose customer data, which leads to unauthorized transactions, or it allows attackers to manipulate service. Also, APIs expand attack surfaces. As applications increasingly rely on third-party integrations, unsecured APIs open doors for exploitation. Another is the rise of API-driven architectures. With trends like microservices, APIs are more critical and more vulnerable than ever. For example, in 2019, a major social media platform faced an API breach that allowed attackers to access user data, resulting in millions of compromised accounts. This highlights why robust API security should never be an afterthought. Now we'll go to the best practices for securing API. First is authentication and authorization. APIs must ensure that only authenticated and authorized users or systems can access them. Some of these include 1. The use of OAuth 2.0 and OpenID Connect. These protocols provide robust frameworks for API access control. OAuth 2 ensures that clients receive access tokens with specific permissions, while OpenID Connect adds identity verification. Another in authentication and authorization is expiring tokens and revoking tokens. By doing so, it ensures access tokens have a limited lifespan and can be revoked in case of a compromise. The last is avoiding API keys alone. While API keys are convenient, they lack the granular control and security provided by modern protocols like OAuth. Another example for best practice in securing API design is input validation. APIs should never trust client inputs. Implementing input validation ensures that only properly formatted and expected data is processed by the backend. Key strategies include whitelisting inputs. These define acceptable formats such as numeric-only fields or specific date formats. Another in input validation is escaping malicious characters. These prevent injection attacks by escaping characters like the less than or greater than symbols or a single quote. Another is using schemas for validation. Tools like JSON schema help validate API request payloads against predefined formats. The last that I have in secure API design is rate limiting. Rate limiting is essential to prevent abuse and ensure fair usage of your API. Key principles include limiting requests per client. This sets a maximum number of requests a single client can make within a specific time frame. So in the event that, let's say, one of your client makes a number of requests, or let's say in about a minute your client is only allowed to make 100 requests. However, your client made 200 requests. As such, after on the 101st request, your API would automatically block or reject the request. The second one is dynamic thresholds. These adjust limits based on user roles or subscription levels, such as higher limits for premium users. The last one on rate limiting is DDoS protection. These integrate rate limiting tools like WAFs to mitigate distributed denial of service attacks.
I've sent the example of malicious characters over our chat in Zoom. At least these are characters to be aware of whenever you're receiving input coming from an API client or input coming from your users, where you need to interface with your client facing. You have your web UI, you have your mobile UI. Okay. Any questions or clarifications? None. Okay.
Next, we move on to continuous monitoring and incident response. In today's interconnected world, ensuring the security of your systems isn't a one-time effort. It's an ongoing process. To truly safeguard your web applications and infrastructure, you need to focus on continuous monitoring and have a well-prepared incident response plan in place. Let's dive into these critical aspects of modern cybersecurity. Continuous monitoring is all about staying one step ahead of potential threats. Rather than relying solely on periodic audits, this approach ensures that your systems are constantly under surveillance for unusual or suspicious activity. Among the key practices for continuous monitoring is 1. Deploying SIEM tools. Security information and event management, or SIEM, like Splunk or Elastic Security, collect and analyze security-related data from across your systems. They provide real-time alerts when suspicious patterns are detected, such as failed login attempts, unauthorized access to sensitive files, or unusual traffic spikes. Another among the key practices is automated alert systems. This is relying on automation to ensure that no threats go unnoticed. For example, an automated alert could notify your team immediately if a web application suddenly starts receiving requests from hundreds of unique IPs. This indicates that there's a possible DDoS attack. Some of the example tools that we have for continuous monitoring is 1. The ELK stack, Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. This is ideal for log collection, analysis, and visualization. Another is Datadog. Datadog offers cloud monitoring and threat detection with easy integration into your platform. The last of the tools that I have here is Splunk. It's a robust platform for log analysis and SIEM, widely used in enterprise environments. Now, what are the benefits of continuous monitoring? First, you'll have early threat detection that reduces the time attackers will have to exploit while an incident response plan or IRP comes in. This ensures that your team knows exactly what to do when a security event happens, minimizing damage and downtime. Now, there are 3 components of an IRP. First, it's timely containment and recovery. The first priority during an incident is containment. It's stopping the breach or attack from spreading farther. For example, you're isolating compromised servers, which prevents malware from infecting the rest of the network. The next one is regular drills. Regular drills is conducting simulated attack scenarios which allow your team to practice responses in a controlled environment. Regular drills ensure everyone knows their role and highlight areas for improvement in your IRP. And then the last one in the components in an IRP is post-incident analysis. After an incident, conduct a thorough review to understand what went wrong and how to prevent similar events in the future. Lessons learned should feed into updates to your IRP and monitoring tools. Now, some of the tools for incident response. Splunk. It has the ability to correlate events across multiple data sources, making it invaluable for detecting the root cause of incidents, or RCAs. Next is ELK Stack. It offers detailed insights into logs, helping teams pinpoint suspicious activity leading up to the event. And then the last one that I have for tools in IRP is Cybersecurity Playbook. It defines specific steps to take during different types of incidents, from ransomware attack to insider threats.
Okay, so to wrap up on continuous monitoring and incident response, the combination of both is essential. Now, monitoring tools like SIAM and automated alerts keep you informed. The key thing is it keeps you informed in real time, while an IRP ensures that you are ready to act decisively when incidents occur. Okay, questions or clarifications before we move on to the next? None? Okay.
Now we move on to advanced authentication mechanisms. Advanced authentication mechanisms is a critical topic in securing modern applications. While passwords have traditionally been the cornerstone of authentication, they are no longer sufficient on their own in today's threat landscape. Let's discuss some advanced methods that enhance security and usability. First is beyond passwords. Passwords alone are increasingly ineffective, with issues like weak password habits and credential leaks compromising security. There are two advanced approaches that go beyond traditional passwords. First is multi-factor authentication, or MFA. MFA strengthens security by requiring two or more verification factors. These include 1. Something you know, it's a password or a PIN, or something that you have, a hardware token or a one-time password, OTP, sent to your phone. Another is something that you are. It's biometrics like fingerprints or facial recognition. Why is MFA important? Even if a password is compromised, the attacker would still need to access the second factor. So an example of this one would be in online banking platforms, where it uses MFA commonly, or it sends an OTP to your phone after you input your password. Another approach is passwordless authentication. This approach eliminates the need for traditional passwords altogether, improving both security and user experience. Some of these methods include 1. Email-based login links, where users receive a secure link via email to authenticate, or a biometric scan. Face ID or fingerprint scanners are used for access. Why is this effective? Without a password to steal, attackers face significant hurdles. An example of which would be Microsoft now offers passwordless login options using Windows Hello or security keys. Next in the advanced authentication mechanisms is having a context-aware authentication. Authentication can be further enhanced by understanding the context in which a user is trying to log in. This brings us to context-aware authentication. What is context-aware authentication? It evaluates additional factors like user behavior, device information, and location to assess whether a login attempt is legitimate. Instead of a simple yes/no decision, it calculates the risk level and determines the appropriate response. Examples of context-aware factors is 1. Behavioral analysis. Samples of which are unusual login times for activities like accessing an account at 3 a.m. These can raise red flags. Another is the device information. If a user is logging in from a new device, this prompts an additional verification. And another is geolocation. If login attempts from countries or IP address not associated with the user, these are being flagged. And then an additional authentication happens. So some of the examples of this one. Google's risk-based authentication system is a perfect illustration. If you usually log in from Manila and suddenly attempt to access your account from Europe, Google may flag this as suspicious and ask for additional verification, like an OTP or re-authentication. Now, why do these mechanisms matter? Advanced authentication mechanisms provide a layered defense against unauthorized access. As attackers become more sophisticated, incorporating methods like MFA, passwordless authentication, and context-aware systems ensure that your application stays ahead of potential threats. These strategies not only improve security, but also enhance the user experience by reducing reliance on easily forgotten passwords or overly complex login requirements.
Any questions or clarifications? Just a heads up, you might have used some of these already whenever you're using some of the mobile applications available. Your fingerprint, your facial recognition on your phone whenever you're opening it. So transcribing that one into a web application, it's just MFA. Some of the applications right now would require, you can link your authentication through devices, Android, your Windows Hello. Only when you authenticate via biometrics, you'll be able to log in into the website. Okay, so no questions or clarifications. We move on to security metrics and reporting.
Now we'll discuss a crucial yet often overlooked aspect of cybersecurity: security metrics and reporting. While deploying robust security controls is essential, measuring their effectiveness is equally important. Security metrics not only track performance, but also help communicate the state of security to stakeholders. Let's dive into why metrics matter, the key metrics to focus on, and how these insights drive continuous improvement. First, let's begin by discussing the importance of security metrics. One is tracking the effectiveness of security controls. Metrics provide concrete data to evaluate whether implemented security measures are working as intended. For example, tracking the number of resolved vulnerabilities can show how well patch management processes are performing. The second one is communicating security status to stakeholders. Security teams often need to justify their efforts and investments to non-technical stakeholders, such as executives or board members. Clear metrics allow security professionals to present a snapshot of the organization's risk posture in a way that is easily understood. For example, metrics like time to detect incidents can illustrate improvements in response capabilities, showing a return on investment for enhanced monitoring tools. Now, let's focus on some key security metrics that every organization should track. First is the number of vulnerabilities detected and resolved. This metric reflects how many security gaps have been identified and remediated. It's especially valuable when broken down by severity, such as critical, high, medium, or low-risk vulnerabilities. A reduction in unresolved vulnerabilities over time indicates the effectiveness of your vulnerability management program. The second metric is time to detect and respond to incidents, your MTTD or MTTR. MTTD, or mean time to detect, measures how quickly security teams identify a threat. Mean time to respond, or MTTR, tracks how quickly incidents are contained and resolved. Lower MTTD and MTTR values indicate more efficient incident response processes. An example, regular reviews of these metrics help an e-commerce platform reduce its MTTD for phishing attempts by 40%, drastically improving user safety. The next metric is uptime and availability metrics during attacks. These metrics assess how well systems maintain availability during events like DDoS attacks. High uptime during attacks demonstrate the resilience of your infrastructure. Tools like Content Delivery Networks, CDNs, or DDoS mitigation services can help maintain performance under pressure. Now let's discuss how these metrics contribute to continuous improvement. One is actionable insight. By identifying trends, such as recurring types of vulnerabilities or longer than expected response times, you can prioritize areas that need attention. Another is benchmarking. Comparing metrics over time or against industry standards helps set achievable security goals. Now, another is resource allocation. Metrics reveal where investments in tools, training, or staffing are needed to enhance security effectiveness. Now, let's go on an example on how this plays out in the real world. Let's say an e-commerce platform is struggling with phishing attacks that targets its customers. By tracking its MTTD, the team identifies the gaps in its email filtering system. After implementing an advanced email threat detection tool and conducting additional staff training, they reduced MTTD by 40%. This improvement not only enhances the security posture but also boosts customer trust in their brand.
Okay. Questions or clarifications on metrics and reporting before we progress into the last section? None? Okay. The last section would be on encryption, and then, this would be, whenever I work on any application, this would be the first thing that I look into.
The last that I have in advanced security techniques for web apps is for encryption. Encryption is a fundamental aspect of securing data and ensuring privacy. It protects sensitive information from unauthorized access, whether the data is being stored or transmitted. In today's digital world, encryption is crucial for maintaining the confidentiality, integrity, and authenticity of the data across various channels such as online transactions, communications, and personal data storage. We'll dive into encryption best practices, particularly focusing on securing data at rest and in transit. These practices are essential for keeping sensitive information safe from cyber threats. Data at rest encryption. Data at rest refers to inactive data stored on devices, databases, or cloud servers. It's critical to encrypt this data to prevent unauthorized access in the event of a breach, theft, or accidental exposure. Here's how to secure data at rest. 1. Use strong encryption standards. The most commonly recommended encryption standard for data at rest is AES 256. AES stands for Advanced Encryption Standard, and 256 is the 256-bit key. AES 256 is widely considered one of the most secure encryption algorithms available today. It is used by government agencies, financial institutions, and enterprises for securing sensitive data. AES 256 also provides strong encryption by converting plain text data into ciphertext that is extremely difficult to decrypt without the proper key. This helps ensure that even if attackers gain access to encrypted data, they won't be able to read or tamper with it. An example: if an e-commerce site stores user passwords, credit card information, or private transaction records, AES 256 ensures that this data remains unreadable even if a malicious actor gains access to the database. Next on securing your data at rest through encryption is regular key rotation. Encryption keys should be rotated regularly to minimize the impact of a potential key compromise. Storing encryption keys securely is just as important as the encryption algorithm itself. Use hardware security modules, or HSMs, to store encryption keys securely. HSMs are physical devices designed to manage and store keys in a way that is resistant to tampering and unauthorized access. So best practice for this would be set a regular schedule for rotating encryption keys and ensure the process is automated whenever possible. Using HSMs, key management can be centralized and securely managed to ensure that keys never leave the protected hardware. Next is encrypting data while in transit. Data in transit refers to data actively moving between devices, systems, or networks. Securing data during transit is just as important as securing data at rest because unsecured data transfers are vulnerable to interception by attackers. Let's look at the best practices for encrypting data in transit. First, enforce HTTPS with TLS 1.3. HTTPS, or Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure, is the foundation for secure communication over the web. It encrypts data transmitted between a user's browser and a web server using Transport Layer Security, or TLS. TLS 1.3 is the latest and most secure version of TLS protocol, offering significant improvements in both security and performance over earlier versions such as TLS 1.2. It uses modern cryptographic techniques to prevent attackers from intercepting or tampering with transmitted data. An example is when users make payments on an e-commerce platform, HTTPS ensures that sensitive information such as credit card details, billing information, and shipping addresses are securely transmitted to the server. The next is implementation of strict transport security, HSTS. HTTP Strict Transport Security, or HSTS, is a security feature that instructs browsers to always communicate with a website using HTTPS, even if the user initially enters an HTTP URL. This prevents attackers from downgrading the connection to an insecure version. HSTS forces browsers to only connect to your site over HTTPS, mitigating the risk of man-in-the-middle attacks, where an attacker intercepts the communication and injects malicious content. As far as best practice goes, use HSTS headers in your web server configuration to enforce HTTPS across your entire website. The HSTS policy can include a preloading option, which ensures that the website is included in the list of sites that browsers automatically redirect to HTTPS. Now, Always remember that encryption is just one layer of security. It's crucial to combine it with other security measures such as proper access control, monitoring, and regular security audits to build a robust defense against potential threats.
Just a tip. If you have your platform or your application hosted over in cloud and then you're using the encryption keys, in most cases, storage of those keys would be handled by your cloud provider, referring to Amazon or GCP, Google Cloud, or uh, Azure for Microsoft. There would be facilities by which you can rotate your encryption keys in the console. Okay, questions or clarifications? Otherwise, that wraps up my lecture series. Okay, I guess there's none. Yep, all yours, Rochelle.
Okay, thank you, Sir Mark. Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending the week 8 lecture session. I just want to remind, don't forget to log your attendance until 2 o'clock p.m. And a quiz for Module 8 will be available in the Trueline website at exactly 3:45 p.m. after the last group lecture session. Please do answer your quiz before the deadline on Tuesday, November 26 at 11:59 p.m. Additional announcement, as your final requirement in this internship program, there will be a plenary session with Dr. Michael Angelo. C. Alejandro will be the guest speaker for this event on November 29, that's Friday, at exactly 2 p.m. Attendance at this session is a mandatory requirement to conclude the internship program. Thank you and have a great day. That's all. Thank you po.
Rochelle, I believe there's
Ah,
a
yes.
question on the chat.
Ano po yun? Ah, Dulcero Marvel. Hello? Dulcero Marvel. Regarding the attendance, once po na na-close na yun, hindi na po sila makakapag-attendance ulit. Wala pa naman yung true line nila. Pa-PM na lang din po siguro sa Viber kung yung mga walang laman yung students na walang laman yung true line. Pa-PM na lang po ako dun sa Viber link po natin. Let me check. Sige, sir. Sige po, i-end ko na po to. PM ko na lang si sir. Thank you. Bye-bye
Okay,
po.
all right,
Thank you, Sir Mars.
thanks.
Recording stopped.